The Keyboard Atheist, a critique of blaming God while ignoring human responsibility. In today's digital age, we encounter various personalities who use the internet as their platform to express opinions and critiques. Among them is the Keyboard Atheist, a vocal critic of religion and, more specifically, the idea of God. This individual often frequents online forums, social media platforms, and comment sections to share his views. He is characterized by a deep-seated animosity towards the concept of a deity, particularly a benevolent God, whom he blames for the suffering and injustices he observes in the world. Why does the Keyboard Atheist hate God? The Keyboard Atheist's disdain for God often stems from a perceived disconnect between the idea of a benevolent, omnipotent deity and the reality of human suffering. He looks around at the world, sees wars, diseases, natural disasters, poverty, and other forms of suffering, and concludes that either God is indifferent to human suffering or does not exist at all. Common arguments from the Keyboard Atheist: the problem of evil. If God is all-powerful and all-good, why does he allow so much suffering? The Keyboard Atheist often points to this classic philosophical problem as evidence against the existence of a benevolent deity. He argues that an omnipotent God could stop evil and suffering if he chose to. But since suffering persists, God either does not care or is powerless. Blaming God for human actions. How can a loving God allow wars, genocides, and injustices? This critique is rooted in the assumption that God should directly intervene to stop human actions that lead to suffering. The Keyboard Atheist often fails to recognize human agency and free will in these scenarios, placing the blame solely on a divine entity. Natural disasters and diseases. Why would a loving God create a world where natural disasters and diseases kill innocent people? Here, the Keyboard Atheist views natural phenomena as deliberate acts or negligence by God, questioning why an all-knowing deity would create such a flawed system. The Keyboard Atheist's hypocrisy, critique without action. While the Keyboard Atheist is quick to blame God for the world's suffering, he often does not lift a finger to help his fellow man. This paradox raises important questions about personal responsibility and the role of humans in alleviating suffering. The Keyboard Atheist's critique is often a convenient way to avoid grappling with human shortcomings and the need for personal action. Consider the following points. Inaction. Despite critique, the Keyboard Atheist frequently criticizes God for not intervening in human suffering, but rarely takes meaningful steps to address the suffering around him. This is akin to standing on the sidelines, criticizing a player for missing a goal while refusing to enter the game. Instead of engaging in charitable work, volunteering, or supporting humanitarian efforts, the Keyboard Atheist remains behind his screen, content with his critiques and moral superiority. Projection of responsibility. By blaming God for the world's problems, the Keyboard Atheist projects responsibility onto a higher power while absolving himself of the need to act. In his view, if God is responsible,